Greetings, everyone, and welcome back to Australian Report. Before we dive into today's political storm, let me ask you this. When was the last time you saw a politician land blows this hard, without ever throwing a single punch? Well, grab your popcorn, because Pauline Hanson has just delivered what could only be described as the political version of a Mike Tyson uppercut aimed squarely at the Greens. Honestly, the Senate hasn't witnessed drama this fiery since the infamous day someone carried a lump of coal into Parliament House. Here's what happened. One Nation's Pauline Hanson came out swinging harder than a pub bouncer at closing time after the Greens accused her, and thousands of Australians attending recent rallies, of being nothing more than racist extremists. And let me tell you, when Hanson goes on the offensive, it's like a tornado colliding with a bushfire. Chaotic, destructive, and impossible to look away from. The controversy began when Greens Senator Mehreen Faruqi launched into a sharp attack, describing the recent March for Australia rallies as gatherings tainted by racism and extremist influence. These weren't your casual Sunday park strolls. Thousands took to the streets in major cities, waving Australian flags with the same energy you'd expect at a Cricket World Cup final, demanding the government rein in immigration numbers, which many believe are rising faster than a kangaroo on a trampoline. But things quickly got messy. Uninvited attendees, actual neo-Nazis, showed up. Groups like the National Socialist Network turned what began as a political protest into something deeply uncomfortable. We're talking Nazi salutes and chants that would make your grandmother grab the wooden spoon in outrage. Faruqi wasn't about to stay silent. From the Senate floor, she denounced the rallies as white supremacist gatherings hijacked by extremists. She accused One Nation of being merchants of hate, a biting phrase that could make even the toughest political commentators blush. She went further still, slamming both Labour and Liberal politicians as ineffective, about as useful as a screen door on a submarine, when it comes to tackling far-right extremism. But if she thought Pauline Hanson would quietly accept that, she clearly hasn't been watching Australian politics for the past 25 years. Hanson struck back with the political force of a bushfire in drought. Fast, fierce, and devastating. She accused the Greens of spreading deliberate misinformation about ordinary Australians exercising their democratic right to protest. Then she turned up the pressure. Hanson argued that the Greens were dismissing legitimate immigration concerns by slapping them with labels like racist or extremist. According to her, these weren't fringe rallies but everyday Australians fed up with what she called a Marxist, anti-Australian agenda being forced upon them. Love her or loathe her, Hanson's ability to launch a full-scale counterattack is remarkable. She went so far as to accuse the Greens of despising the very idea that Australians have the right to protest, a charge that lands with all the subtlety of a wrecking ball in a china shop. Of course, this issue is more complicated than putting together IKEA furniture after a few beers. On one side, thousands of Australians are genuinely worried about housing affordability, rental shortages, and pressure on public services. These aren't necessarily extremists. Their families fearful that their children won't be able to afford anything bigger than a showbox home. On the other side, extremist groups are seizing the opportunity to exploit these concerns, a development as welcome as a dingo in a daycare centre. Even Prime Minister Anthony Albanese had to tread more carefully than a tightrope walker in a windstorm. He admitted that many rallygoers had valid concerns about housing and cost of living pressures. After all, unless you're pulling in mining executive wages, you've noticed that everything costs more than your first car these days. But he also stressed that neo-Nazis and their symbolism are utterly un-Australian, about as wrong as putting pineapple on a meat pie. Meanwhile, Minister for Multicultural Affairs, Andrew Giles, didn't mince words either. He argued that these protests weren't just about immigration in general, but were directly targeting migrants from countries with, in his words, brown people. It was an uncomfortable truth that left many squirming as though they were stuck listening to their parents argue at Christmas dinner. Still, Hanson refused to retreat. She doubled down, insisting that mass migration is making Australia's housing crisis worse than trying to find a parking spot at Bondi Beach on New Year's Day. She said most Australians oppose Labour's record-high immigration levels, pointing to rising homelessness and spiralling rents as proof. Then she went straight for the jugular. Hanson accused the Greens of hypocrisy, highlighting their support for pro-Palestinian demonstrations, even when some of those protests, she argued, had become ugly and contributed to rising antisemitism. From a political strategy standpoint, Hanson was playing the classic game of what about, pointing to inconsistencies in how protests are treated. It's a move as common in politics as complaining about the weather, and one designed to underline what she sees as selective outrage from the Greens. The reality? Both sides raise points that are difficult to dismiss. Immigration undeniably affects housing and public services. No economics degree required to see that more people competing for the same resources drives prices higher. But equally, if your rallies start attracting people doing Nazi salutes, it raises serious questions about your messaging and who your movement is drawing in. This clash also reflects deeper political tensions sweeping through Australia. Many feel left behind by rapid economic shifts, immigration policies, and social changes moving faster than a summer bushfire. Others are alarmed at the rise of extremist rhetoric and fear that mainstream movements risk being hijacked by darker forces. Unfortunately, when issues are this sensitive, nuance often disappears faster than a huntsman's spider when the lights go on. Instead, politicians retreat to their corners, lobbing accusations like confetti at a wedding. So, where does that leave us? Hanson has made it clear she won't back down from defending what she sees as ordinary Australians' right to voice immigration concerns. The Greens, meanwhile, are determined not to normalise rhetoric they view as racist or extremist. And the broader public is left caught in the middle, wanting genuine debate about housing and immigration, without empowering extremist groups eager to exploit the unrest. The truth is, this debate isn't going anywhere. Immigration, housing, and social cohesion will remain flashpoints, no matter who's in government. The real test for Australian democracy is whether it can handle these debates openly, addressing real concerns without silencing them, or handing extremists the very platform they crave. So, what do you think? Does Hanson have a point about the Greens' selective outrage? Or are the Greens right to call out what they see as dangerous rhetoric? And how do we separate genuine policy concerns from extremist opportunism? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget, hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell. With Australian politics moving faster than a greyhound on Red Bull, you'll want to stay tuned for the next round of this unfolding drama. Until next time, this has been Australian Report, keeping you informed and entertained in equal measure.